First contact's deception. The Helios Deep Space Observatory's quantum arrays lit up like a Christmas tree at 300 hours Universal Earth time. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the readings in disbelief, her hands trembling as she recalibrated the sensors for the third time. The signature remained unchanged. A massive object was decelerating from FTL speeds at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. "Director Walsh, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The observatory's director appeared behind her moments later, coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips as he processed the data streaming across the holographic display. "My God," he whispered, "it's really happening." Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, ever since the discovery of artificial signals emanating from the direction of Alpha Centauri. But preparation was one thing. Reality was another entirely. As they watched, the object resolved itself into a massive vessel, its hull bearing the scars of what appeared to be weapons fire. Within hours, the vessel broadcast its first message, a plea for sanctuary. They called themselves the Ardani, claimed to be refugees fleeing from an expansionist empire known as the Corax hegemony. Their ship, they explained, was one of the last survivors of their defense fleet, carrying precious cultural artifacts and civilian leadership. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, head of Earth's newly minted Space Defense Force, stood before the assembled representatives, her expression grave. "The Ardani vessel appears heavily damaged," she reported. "Their weapon systems are offline, life support is failing, and they have multiple hull breaches. They're requesting permission to enter orbit around Jupiter for repairs." The council chambers erupted in debate. Some argued for caution, others for humanitarian aid. But deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only to a select few, Dr. James Okoro watched the proceedings with growing concern. As head of Project Oracle, humanity's ultra-classified Xenological Research Division, he had access to information that would turn the current debate on its head. His team had been monitoring and decoding alien communications for years, building a comprehensive picture of galactic politics that the public knew nothing about. "Run it again," he ordered his AI assistant. "Compare the Ardani vessel's quantum signature with our database." The results confirmed his fears. The ship's signature matched known patterns of the Corax hegemony itself, not their purported victims. This wasn't a refugee vessel, it was a Trojan horse. But before Okoro could warn the council, new signatures appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Ardani ship's distress beacon had drawn exactly what it was meant to: a massive fleet of warships, appearing from multiple vectors simultaneously. The trap was sprung, or so they thought. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had not been idle in the decades since detecting their first signals. The public face of Earth's space program might have appeared primitive, with chemical rockets and basic ion engines, but that was by design. Hidden throughout the solar system were automated defense platforms disguised as asteroids. The lunar far side housed particle beam weapons capable of striking targets beyond Mars. And in underground facilities across Earth, quantum computers had been working for years to crack alien encryption protocols and weapons systems. As the Ardani vessel moved to rendezvous with the newly arrived fleet, Admiral Rodriguez received a priority message from Project Oracle. Her lips curved into a slight smile as she read it. The aliens thought they had caught humanity unprepared, but they were about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating primitive species. She opened a secure channel to all SDF commands throughout the solar system. "Initiative Prometheus is now active. I say again, Prometheus is active. Show them what humanity can really do." Throughout the solar system, weapons platforms emerged from their hiding places. Stealth fields dropped, revealing sleek warships that had never appeared in any public record. And deep within Earth's ocean trenches, massive generators hummed to life, preparing to demonstrate why humanity had kept its true capabilities hidden for so long. The real war was about to begin, and Earth's would-be conquerors were about to discover they had made a terrible mistake in choosing this primitive world as their target. After all, any species that could survive its own development of nuclear weapons, that could thrive in every environment from Arctic tundra to scorching deserts, that could go from horse-drawn carriages to spaceflight in less than a century, was anything but primitive. Humanity had simply learned long ago that sometimes the best defense was to be underestimated. As the alien fleet moved into attack formation, they remained oblivious to the fact that every transmission they sent, every weapon's frequency they used, had already been analyzed and countered. Their superior technology meant nothing against an enemy that had spent years preparing specifically for them. The first sign that something was wrong came when their targeting systems failed to lock onto any Earth vessels. The second was when their supposedly encrypted command channels began broadcasting their own tactical data back to them. By the time they realized the true extent of their mistake, it was already too late. The war for Sol had begun, and humanity was done playing primitive. The hidden edge. The first shot of the war wasn't fired with a weapon, but with a keystroke. As the alien fleet moved to surround Earth, Dr. Maya Patel sat in her control center within Mount Cheyenne, her fingers dancing across a quantum interface. Years of studying intercepted alien communications were about to pay off. "Execute Protocol Babel," she commanded. Across the solar system, human quantum transmitters activated, flooding alien communication channels with precisely calibrated interference patterns. The effect was instantaneous. The coordinated movements of the hostile fleet dissolved into chaos. Admiral Zhang Wei of the Corax hegemony felt his mandibles twitch in frustration as his fleet's command network crashed. Impossible. He chittered to his bridge crew. These primitives couldn't possibly. His words died as the holographic displays surrounding his command pod flickered and reformed, now showing Earth military insignias. "This is Admiral Elena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force," a human voice announced across every Corax channel. "Your deception has failed. Your communications are compromised. Your targeting systems are under our control. You have one opportunity to withdraw." The Corax response was predictable. They opened fire. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes lanced out toward Earth and its orbital installations. But instead of the expected devastation, something remarkable happened. Moments before impact, sheets of distorted space appeared, catching the alien weapons and redirecting them harmlessly into the void. This was the work of Project Einstein, gravity manipulation technology that humanity had kept hidden for decades. "They're using localized space-time distortion," the Corax weapons officer reported, his voice trembling. "But their civilization is barely post-industrial. Our intel showed them using chemical rockets." Admiral Zhang's response was cut short as new contacts appeared on his sensors. Throughout the asteroid belt, what had appeared to be normal space rocks were transforming. Surfaces that had fooled even the most advanced scans melted away, revealing sleek weapon platforms and warships. This was the true face of human military technology. Not the primitive satellites and crude space stations visible to alien observers, but a hidden fleet built in secret over decades. Every vessel incorporated technology reverse-engineered from carefully monitored alien transmissions and debris. Dr. James Okoro watched from Project Oracle's command center as the trap was sprung. "Interesting," he mused, studying the Corax response patterns. "They still think they're dealing with a primitive species trying to punch above its weight. They haven't realized yet that we've been playing a much longer game." The Corax fleet regrouped, adopting a defensive formation. Their superior numbers still gave them confidence, despite the surprising human capabilities. That confidence lasted until they tried to launch their fighter squadrons. Throughout the solar system, precisely calibrated gravitational waves began to ripple. This was the work of Dr. Sarah Chen's team at the Helios Observatory, or rather, what the observatory actually was: a massive gravity wave generator disguised as a scientific installation. Corax fighters found themselves fighting not just enemy weapons but space itself. Pockets of distorted gravity scattered their formations, while others created zones where their advanced propulsion systems simply ceased to function. Multiple Corax vessels are powering up their FTL drives, reported Lieutenant Commander Jack O'Neill from his stealth destroyer hidden in lunar orbit. They're trying to retreat. Admiral Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Activate the quantum anchor. Deep beneath Europa's ice, a device that officially didn't exist hummed to life. The result of decades of secret research into quantum entanglement, it created a field that made FTL travel impossible within the solar system. The Corax fleet was trapped. What followed was not the quick victory the Corax had expected, nor even the desperate resistance they had prepared for. Instead, they found themselves facing an opponent that had spent years preparing specifically for this moment. Human ships emerged from hidden docks and asteroid cores, their hulls incorporating crystalline lattices that absorbed and redirected energy weapons. Drone swarms launched from beneath the Martian poles, their control systems operating on principles the Corax had never encountered. But perhaps most devastating was the information warfare. Maya Patel's team had spent years creating backdoors in alien computer systems, studying their protocols, and preparing viruses tailored to their architecture. Now those preparations bore fruit as Corax ships found their own systems turning against them. Admiral Zhang watched in horror as ship after ship went dark, their crews trapped inside as life support systems malfunctioned in precisely calculated ways. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How could they have prepared for us so thoroughly? The answer, had he known it, was simple. Humanity had learned long ago that survival often meant appearing weaker than you were. While aliens watched Earth's public space programs and dismissed humans as primitives, the real work had been happening in secret, funded by a unified Earth that understood the true threats lurking among the stars. As the battle entered its third hour, it was becoming clear to the Corax that they had made a catastrophic mistake. They had expected to find an easy target, a primitive species ripe for conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that had been quietly preparing for war since before they even arrived. And this was only the beginning. The turning point. The quantum sensors hidden within Titan's methane lakes detected them first, a new fleet emerging from FTL at the edge of the solar system. But these weren't Corax reinforcements. The crystalline architecture of their ships marked them as something else entirely. Raxan vessels confirmed, Dr. Maya Patel announced, her voice tense. Looks like the Corax's rivals couldn't resist the opportunity to eliminate their competition. The Raxan Collective was known to Project Oracle through intercepted communications, an aggressive civilization that had been waiting for an opportunity to strike at their Corax rivals. They had clearly decided that the Corax's apparent defeat by a primitive species presented the perfect opportunity. What they didn't expect was to find themselves facing the same prepared defenses that had trapped their rivals. Admiral Rodriguez studied the tactical display in her command center, now carved deep beneath the Mariana Trench. They think they're being clever, she observed. Moving in while both we and the Corax are supposedly weakened from battle. The Raxan fleet split into two elements, one moving to engage the battered Corax forces, the other advancing toward Earth. Their confidence was evident in their aggressive formation. After all, how much fight could a primitive species have left after facing a Corax invasion fleet? The answer came in the form of Project Lazarus. Throughout the solar system, what appeared to be disabled or destroyed human vessels suddenly reactivated. The debris fields from the earlier battle transformed as stealth fields dropped, revealing intact warships that had been playing dead, waiting for precisely this moment. Beautiful, isn't it? Dr. James Okoro remarked, watching the Raxan fleet's reaction. They're so convinced of their superiority that they never considered we might have planned for multiple adversaries. The truth was, humanity had known for years that the arrival of one alien force would likely attract others. The galaxy, they had learned from intercepted communications, was a complex web of rivalries and opportunistic alliances. Earth's apparent vulnerability would be too tempting for many to resist. So they had prepared accordingly. The Raxan advance faltered as their sensors registered multiple new threats. Human vessels emerged from hiding spots throughout the solar system, their designs varied and unpredictable. Unlike the standardized fleets of most galactic powers, Earth's forces had been built with adaptation in mind. "Launch the Hydra swarms," Rodriguez commanded. From bases hidden in Mercury's crater shadows, swarms of autonomous combat drones activated. These weren't the simple remote-controlled units that Earth publicly acknowledged. These were quantum-linked swarms operating on advanced AI platforms, capable of learning and adapting to new threats in real time. The Raxan fleet found their energy shields useless against weapons that phased through them by shifting partially out of normal spacetime. Their point defense systems were overwhelmed by drones that could predict their responses before they made them. "Impossible," Raxan Fleet Commander Vexterra hissed through their neural interface. "Their level of technology. This cannot be the same species that was using chemical rockets mere decades ago." But it was. While Earth had maintained a public facade of limited technological development, the combined resources of a unified human civilization had been focused on secret advancement. Every alien transmission intercepted, every piece of debris recovered, had contributed to a technological foundation that combined the best of human innovation with reversed engineered alien tech. The battle took an even more surprising turn when the quantum anchor field suddenly shifted, creating corridors of normal spacetime through the solar system. The trapped Corax ships found themselves with escape routes directly through the advancing Raxan fleet. "Let's see how well they play together," Rodriguez smiled grimly. The result was predictable. The Corax, faced with a choice between certain defeat by human forces and a chance to strike at their ancient rivals, chose the latter. Their remaining ships turned their full fury on the Raxan fleet. What followed was chaos, but a chaos that humanity had orchestrated. As the two alien forces tore into each other, human vessels picked off targets of opportunity, their advanced electronic warfare systems ensuring that each side blamed the other for the casualties they inflicted. From her station on Titan, Dr. Sarah Chen monitored the gravitational distortions caused by the massive space battle. "The quantum anchor is holding," she reported. "Neither fleet can escape the solar system until we allow it." But humanity's greatest advantage wasn't their hidden technology or careful preparation. It was their ability to adapt and innovate in ways the more rigid alien civilizations struggled to comprehend. As the battle raged, human AI systems were constantly analyzing alien tactics and technology, developing countermeasures in real time. Every engagement provided new data, which was immediately shared across Earth's quantum-encrypted network. "They still don't understand what they're really fighting," Okoro observed. "They think we're just another species that got lucky with salvage technology. They haven't realized that we've spent generations preparing not just to fight them, but to surpass them." The turning point of the battle came when the first Raxan dreadnought fell, not to human weapons or Corax attacks, but to a virus that turned its own power core into a weapon. As the massive ship detonated, taking 3 others with it, the Raxan fleet finally began to realize the true nature of their situation. They weren't facing a primitive species that had gotten lucky. They were facing an opponent that had deliberately masked its true capabilities, waiting for the right moment to demonstrate why humanity had survived countless near-extinction events during its evolution. The war for Sol was entering its final phase, and the galaxy was about to learn why underestimating humans was a deadly mistake. The Sol Gambit. The remains of the Corax and Raxan fleets hung in space like broken constellations, their once proud formations shattered by hours of intense combat. But Admiral Rodriguez knew the battle was far from over. Long-range sensors were detecting new signatures approaching from multiple vectors. 6 distinct fleet formations incoming, Lieutenant Commander O'Neill reported from the stealth command ship Shadowbreaker. Energy signatures match Hexen, Vorkath, and at least 4 other major powers. Looks like the whole neighborhood decided to crash the party. It was exactly what Project Oracle had predicted years ago. The sight of major powers bloodied by a supposedly primitive species would draw opportunists like sharks to blood in the water. Each arriving force thought they were being clever, moving in to claim easy victory over weakened opponents. Dr. Maya Patel's fingers flew across her quantum interface. Initiating solar protocol, she announced. All teams, synchronize your systems. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations hummed to life. On Mercury, enormous arrays previously disguised as solar research stations began to pulse with energy. Similar facilities on Venus and Mars activated, creating a triangulated network throughout the inner system. They're about to learn why we built our civilization in a yellow dwarf system, Dr. James Okoro remarked, watching the energy readings climb. The first wave of the new alien fleets emerged from FTL at the system's edge, their weapons charged and shields raised. They expected resistance from the remaining Korax and Raxan forces, perhaps some desperate human defenders. What they didn't expect was for the sun itself to respond to their arrival. Years ago, humanity had discovered something remarkable about their home star. With the right technology, its magnetic field could be manipulated in precise ways. Project Helios was born from this discovery, turning Sol itself into humanity's greatest defensive asset. The first sign that something was wrong came when alien shields began to flicker. Carefully modulated pulses from the solar manipulation network were creating resonance patterns in their energy fields, patterns that grew stronger with each passing moment. Quantum entanglement network is stable, Dr. Sarah Chen reported from her station. Solar flare trajectories are locked in. Admiral Rodriguez allowed herself a small nod. Execute. The surface of the sun erupted, but these were no ordinary solar flares. They were precisely controlled streams of plasma, guided by the combined power of humanity's hidden solar network. The streams split and curved through space, following paths laid out by gravitational lenses positioned throughout the system. The alien fleets found themselves caught in an apocalyptic light show. Their shields, already weakened by the resonance pulses, crumbled under the onslaught of stellar plasma. Ships that tried to escape found their FTL drives refusing to engage. The quantum anchor was still active, though now modified to create specific corridors of space. They're retreating into the designated zones, O'Neill reported with satisfaction. This had been the true purpose of the quantum anchor all along, not just to trap enemies in the solar system, but to hedge them into carefully prepared killing grounds. As the alien ships rushed for what they thought were safe zones, they instead found themselves clustered perfectly for the next phase of humanity's defense. From bases hidden in the Kuiper Belt, enormous gravitational wave generators activated. These were the products of decades of research, devices capable of creating localized space-time distortions strong enough to tear ships apart. To all approaching forces, Rodriguez broadcast on all frequencies. You have entered a restricted system. Your ships are now compromised. Your retreat paths are controlled. You have one opportunity to surrender. The response was a cacophony of threats, demands, and declarations of superiority. Right up until the moment when the gravitational waves hit, ships that had survived the solar assault found themselves being crushed by forces they couldn't comprehend. Those that tried to fight back discovered that their weapons were worse than useless. The gravitational distortions curved their fire back upon them. Multiple ships powering down, O'Neill reported. We're receiving surrender signals from 3 of the 6 fleets. The remaining forces tried one final, desperate gambit. The Hexan dreadnoughts, massive ships larger than anything humanity had yet revealed, began powering up what appeared to be some form of dimensional weapon. Oh, they really shouldn't have done that, Paddle remarked, a slight smile playing across her face. As the Hexan weapons charged, they triggered the final layer of Earth's defense system. Quantum fields throughout the solar system synchronized, creating a cascade effect that turned the very fabric of space against the alien weapons. The massive energy they had gathered collapsed in on itself, transforming their mighty dreadnoughts into artificial singularities that lasted just long enough to pull their own support ships into oblivion. The battle for Sol was effectively over. The surviving alien vessels hung motionless in space, their commanders finally realizing the true scope of their mistake. They hadn't just underestimated humanity's military capability. They had failed to understand the fundamental difference between their civilizations. The galaxy's major powers had grown complacent with their technology, relying on brute force and established doctrine. Humanity, on the other hand, had evolved through countless challenges and near extinctions, developing an unmatched ability to innovate and adapt. As the surrender signals continued to pour in, Admiral Rodriguez opened a channel to Earth's unified command. "Solar system is secured," she reported simply. "Time to show our new friends what a primitive species can really do when it puts its mind to it." The war was over. The age of humanity's masked potential had ended, and the galaxy would never be the same. A new dawn. 3 months after the Battle of Seoul, the grand chamber of the newly constructed Terran Diplomatic Center in Geneva hummed with activity. Representatives from 27 galactic civilizations had gathered, many still struggling to process how dramatically the balance of power had shifted. Admiral Rodriguez stood at a window overlooking Lake Geneva, watching ships from various alien delegations moving through Earth's now unrestricted airspace. Beside her, Dr. James Okoro reviewed data on his quantum tablet. "The Corax hegemony has formally recognized Earth's sovereignty over the entire Sol system," he reported. "The Raxan Collective is offering technological exchange treaties, and the Hexan survivors are practically begging for defensive agreements." Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Amazing how quickly their attitude changed once they realized we weren't actually primitive. The aftermath of the battle had sent shockwaves through galactic society. The revelation that a supposedly backward species had not only developed advanced technology in secret, but had successfully defended against multiple top-tier civilizations, simultaneously had upended centuries of established diplomatic doctrine. Dr. Maya Patil entered the chamber, her usual lab coat replaced by formal diplomatic attire. "The quantum encryption protocols we developed are becoming the new galactic standard," she announced. Turns out our primitive approach to information security was actually centuries ahead of their brute force methods. The truth was, humanity's perceived weakness had been its greatest strength. While alien civilizations had developed their technology openly, competing in an endless arms race, Earth had evolved in isolation, taking a radically different approach to advancement. "The Archival Council is still processing our historical database," Dr. Sarah Chen added, joining the group. She had recently been appointed as Earth's chief scientific liaison to the galaxy. "They seem particularly fascinated by how many times we nearly destroyed ourselves yet emerged stronger." That was perhaps the most significant revelation to the galactic community. Humanity's greatest achievements had come not from periods of peace and prosperity, but from overcoming near-extinction events. Each crisis, from the Ice Age to the climate wars, had forced humans to innovate in ways the more stable alien civilizations never had to consider. In orbit, the cleanup of the battle debris continued, but rather than simply disposing of the wreckage, human engineers were studying every piece, incorporating new insights into their already impressive technological base. This, too, was uniquely human: the ability to learn from failure, even the failures of their opponents. "The Galactic Council has approved our membership application," Rodriguez noted, reading from a secure transmission. "Though I suspect it has more to do with wanting to keep us close than any genuine desire for cooperation." "Can you blame them?" Okoro asked. "We spent decades letting them think we were barely space-capable, all while building defenses that could challenge the most powerful forces in the galaxy. Trust will take time." But trust was coming, albeit slowly. The first trade agreements were being signed, cultural exchanges were beginning, and Earth's universities were being flooded with applications from alien students eager to understand the civilization that had hidden in plain sight for so long. Perhaps most significantly, the incident had forced many alien powers to reevaluate their approach to primitive species. The possibility that other developing civilizations might be following Earth's example of hidden advancement had created a new caution in galactic affairs. In the months following the battle, humanity began revealing more of its achievements. The true extent of Earth's technological progress stunned the galactic community. From quantum manipulation techniques that defied conventional physics to biological advances that had quietly solved problems other species had struggled with for centuries, humans had developed solutions that no one else had even considered. The Raxan ambassador asked me an interesting question yesterday, Putul mentioned. He wanted to know if we had planned everything from the beginning, if we had deliberately leaked evidence of our existence to draw out potential threats. Rodriguez exchanged knowing looks with her colleagues. The truth was both simpler and more complex than that. Humanity hadn't planned for any specific scenario. They had planned for every scenario they could imagine, and then developed the tools to adapt to the ones they couldn't. As the diplomatic summit continued below, a new transmission arrived from the outer system. The quantum sensors that had first detected the Corax invasion were picking up unusual signals from beyond the Kuiper Belt. But this time, Earth didn't react with alarm. Instead, preparations began with quiet confidence. Whatever came next, humanity was ready. No longer hidden, no longer pretending to be primitive, but still maintaining the careful, innovative approach that had served them so well. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating the species that had climbed from caves to stars in the blink of cosmic time. "Send word to the fleet," Rodriguez ordered. "Remind them of humanity's new motto." Okoro nodded, transmitting the phrase that had become Earth's unofficial slogan in galactic affairs. "Underestimate us at your peril." The sun set over Geneva, casting long shadows through the diplomatic chamber. On the surface, Earth appeared much as it had before, a beautiful blue marble spinning through space. But now the galaxy knew the truth. This wasn't just another world to be conquered or dismissed. This was humanity's home, and humanity had proven, beyond any doubt, that they were worthy of their place among the stars. As night fell, the lights of cities sparked to life across the planet's surface, mixing with the glow of alien vessels in orbit. A new age had begun, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The species that everyone had dismissed as primitive had emerged as something far more. A civilization that had turned patience and preparation into an art form, and deception into a shield that protected them until they were ready to show their true strength. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.